I'll show you how to make some Three Kings Day bread for January 6th or 7th. This is kind of like a cinnamon roll, just in a different shape. You will need flour, sugar, white sugar, light brown sugar. You'll need salt, vanilla, whole milk, 2 eggs, 1 packet of active dry yeast, not the rapid rise, active dry yeast. And you'll need some kind of seasoning. You can just use cinnamon. Pumpkin pie spice works here. That's heavier on the cinnamon. And I also love this thing, which is optional, which you see there. It's called Buttery Cinnamon Roll from a brand called Flavor God. I just love that, in addition to the cinnamon. So if you can, it's optional. Flavor God Buttery Cinnamon Roll. That has some like notes of coconut and like honey powder and cardamom. It's just so good. And then you'll also need 5 tablespoons of butter, softened, in a bowl, plus another 6 tablespoons of butter for the filling. You'll need these couple bowls. You will need a mixing bowl. I'm using my stand mixer bowl. You'll need the dough hook if you're using a stand mixer. You absolutely can do this by hand if you want. You'll also need a second bowl, which I didn't show, to let your dough rise. If you can, get one of these silicone mats to put on your counter, and that way your dough won't stick. You can use way less flour for dusting when you roll out your dough, and it also keeps your counter clean. I also needed a 1 cup measuring cup, a spoon, and of course a rolling pin. Besides being convenient to keep things clean and my dough not sticking to this, you can see that it enables me to make exactly the same size of circles if I'm rolling out dough for pastry, or like I am today, I'm going to roll out 11-inch circles of dough. And this silicone mat is oven safe up to 450 degrees, which means I can use it as a baking mat. All right, we'll get started now. So here's my 5 tablespoons of softened butter. This goes into the microwave just until the butter is melted. For my microwave, it's going to take about 27 seconds. The butter doesn't need to be 100% perfectly melted. You might be able to see that there's a tiny bit of still solid butter. As I swirl this butter, the melted butter, it'll help melt any little specks that remain. We definitely don't want to heat the butter so it's boiling. Okay, in goes our 2 1/4 teaspoon. That is the packet of the yeast. 1 cup of milk that was added to 1/4 cup of water and put in the microwave for about 37 seconds. In my microwave, that's enough to get it up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit or baby bathwater temperature. You really can just trust your good judgment on this. Would you bathe a baby in water of this temperature? If so, it's okay to bathe your yeast in that. Now I'm going to keep this yeast milk water mixture for about 5 to 10 minutes, and this will allow me to see, I hope you can see, that my yeast is indeed alive. It should start foaming and there should be bubbles. You can help this process along by adding about 1 teaspoon of white granulated sugar. So as I said, about 5 to 10 minutes, and you should see a foamy head on your yeast. You can certainly cover the bowl with saran wrap or a clean tea towel as you step away. All right, we're back, and we definitely see a foamy head on this, so we know our yeast is alive and active. So to this, we can add our 5 tablespoons of melted butter. It's been able to clear pretty well. Now in a separate bowl, I'm going to, or rather I should say the same bowl that I used to melt my butter, I'm going to crack 1 egg. Then I'm also going to crack an egg yolk because I only want for the second egg, I only want the yolk to go in. This is going to add extra richness to our dough. Now, because this is only 1 egg white that I have remaining that's not going into my bread, I'm fine to just throw this down the drain. But if you have recipes that call for more egg yolks, like making a custard ice cream, consider saving those egg whites in a labeled container and putting them in your fridge. Make an omelet with it. Okay, or you could make meringues. Okay, I'm going to add like maybe a half a teaspoon of vanilla. You could totally use fake vanilla, that is fine. Adding a third of a cup of granulated white sugar. This goes in onto my stand mixer with the dough hook attachment. And just little by little, I will start to add my flour until I get the texture that I want. Now in this case, it took me 5 cups. 5 cups is the standard for this recipe. You might need ever so slightly more or less. I can't tell you because it depends on the exact flour that you use and how much protein is in your flour. It does vary a tiny bit by brand. It can also be impacted by how much humidity is in the air where you are and how much the flour has absorbed some of that humidity. But in my case, I ended up needing a total of 5 cups of flour on the dot. So I'm using my stand mixer's lowest speed setting, and you should always, in my opinion, you should always do that, especially with the KitchenAid mixer. KitchenAid mixers were more designed for making cake batters rather than making stiff doughs. So you can burn out a KitchenAid mixer, and I've known people to do it. It's a good strong mixer, but can't handle everything. It's not specifically a bread mixer. So keep it on the lowest setting, and you're going to need to mix this for about a total of 7 to 8 minutes, maybe even more, maybe even up to 10 minutes on that lowest setting. So every maybe minute and a half, 2 minutes, turn the mixer off, give the motor a minute or two to rest. Okay, so it took me about 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes to get to this stage. Put the dough in a well-oiled bowl, let it rise. It's going to take 1 hour to 2 hours to double in size. For me, it took 1.5 hours. I do wish that I had showed this part, but it wasn't really easy for me to show it. Once my dough had proofed and risen, doubled in size, I put it out on the mat. I divided the dough into 4 equal portions. I really just eyeballed it. And now this is one of the portions, one of those 4-part portions. I rolled it out to, you choose. You can either do 11 inches or 12-inch circles. I did 11-inch. Whichever you do, try to get all of your circles the same size. And then I made a mixture of 6 tablespoons of softened, not melted, softened butter, beaten with half of a cup of well pressed into the cup brown sugar, tightly packed to measure it, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and then this is optional. I also added about 2 teaspoons of the Flavor God buttery cinnamon roll sweet seasoning, the flavoring. It's so good. I really recommend that you do it. So now we're going to, again, just eyeballing about a quarter of that mixture. The cinnamon sugar mixture goes on each layer. And then you're just going to put over each new pre-rolled layer of the dough until you have your final layer. So now I have 4 layers of stacked dough that each have buttery cinnamon sugar on them. Then I take a piece of saran wrap and I run my roller over it one more time just to make sure that all the layers, the whole thing is more or less even in size and height. I remove my saran wrap. I'm going to put my 1 cup measuring cup. You can put anything that is similar in size to my cup. You'll use that as a guide. So you're going to cut, as if this were a clock, you'd cut at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock with a sharp knife. Cut those pieces in half, and again cut those pieces in half. And then when two sides are next to each other, you will pull them apart and twist them 3 times. And you can either choose to pinch the ends together or not. And that's how you get this pretty look of this bread when it gets baked in a 350-degree oven for me it takes about 28 minutes in my oven. Kind of like if you like pull apart breads, you'll really like this. I really like the striations that you can see there, and you get just these really nice layers of glazy, buttery cinnamon sugar. Really worth making for Three Kings Day. And if you're Orthodox, Three Kings Day isn't until January 7th. So I hope that you will give it a try. It's not too late. Take care. Bye.